California's Central Valley, the heat blasts like a massive hairdryer. This is some of the most productive farmland in the world. A mind-boggling 200-plus types of crops are grown here. In America or Canada, there's a good chance produce you ate today came from here. Giving me a tour, Matt Hammond, whose profession makes him extremely popular and stressed to the max.
You're having to come in emergency situations and the pressure is on you day by day. The phone keeps ringing. You were supposed to be here back in February. My crops are dying.
He and his crew have been working non-stop for months, on the hunt for the most valuable resource in the valley.
Water. Liquid gold here.
This is what desperation looks like during a drought. Drought is what brought farmers here in the 1930s, fleeing the prairie dust bowl. The valley was an oasis.
Look, there she is.
Made famous by Steinbeck's novel The Grapes of Wrath,
Look how pretty and green it is.
One of them's orange trees, John.
there was land, fertile soil, water aplenty. Back then, no one could have imagined this place would ever be dubbed the New Dust Bowl. But the massive system of canals, reservoirs, and dams that helped turn grasslands into orchards that spawned giant industrial-scale farms, it's all starting to dry up, thanks to unprecedented weather.
California officials announced late today they have ordered emergency water cutbacks.
So that's why we're not getting the much-needed rain.
And the consequences could change California and the country forever.
California is in the midst of a 3-year drought. Yes, droughts have happened before, but this one, so severe, it could topple 500-year records.
This is now, that was a year ago, a lot more snow.
The snowpack in the mountains is shrinking. That snowpack feeds these reservoirs. It's not hard to see the result. This time of year, the spillway at Friant Dam usually gushes, filling irrigation canals. Not now, and the consequences are enormous. In the community of Orange Cove, drought translates into difficult choices. The cost to keep these orange trees watered was higher than any profits.
This was the least productive.
It was Harvey Bailey's decision. Not easy, since he's the one who planted them decades ago.
If we had had water, sufficient water, we wouldn't have pushed it out.
This wouldn't be happening.
This would not be out.
In normal years, farmers draw as much as 2/3 of their water from canals. This year, that allocation was zero. Zero. That means they can only get water from one place, underground wells.
There's people that are trying to deepen wells, put in new wells. We're drilling wells. We don't have surface water, and that's the way it's going to be. They're going to suck it dry. And if we don't get water next year, you're going to see a lot more trees pushed out.
Arthur Normal Drilling.
At the offices of this drilling company,
Arthur Norm, this is Kim.
the phone never stops ringing.
I hear the stories and I hear the panic in their voices. I hear their frustration.
The waiting list for a new well is over a year long.
We usually have about maybe 30, 40 wells on the books at one time. We have over, I'd say well over 100.
You've tripled.
Oh, absolutely.
Part of the problem, their crews must dig deeper and deeper just to find water.
My dad has been in the business over 50 or so years, and he never dreamt in a million years that, first of all, we would have the capability of drilling a well 2,500 feet, but that we would actually be doing it.
Did you have to ever drill that deep?
No.
He didn't think that would ever happen?
Not in his lifetime. He just never, it was just unthinkable. The water was always just so readily available, and now it's not. There are some parts of the valley where there just is no water. There just is no water.
That's what we're drilling in right now, clay and some gravel.
Because groundwater is increasingly elusive, Kim's husband Matt and his crew are drilling to uncharted depths.
It's harder on everything. You wear out your bits, your drill bits more, you wear out your pumps more. It's just harder on us. It takes longer to get there, where we would have been in and out of here in a day had we had to drill a 200, 250 foot well. When you got to go 460 to 500 feet, for us, it adds another day, day and a half. Put that off to the side.
Newly deepened wells drain shallower wells nearby. This is akin to an arms race to the bottom, pitting neighbor against neighbor.
And everybody keeps hoping and dreaming, well, next year, the almanac is calling for a wet winter. Well, that's nice, but I'd hate to put all my trust in just the almanac. So what do? Just keep drilling deeper, I guess.
But drilling deeper has more than just financial consequences. It's called subsidence. This photo tells the story how over decades, excessive pumping of groundwater is causing the land to sink dramatically. Some worry if land continues to sink, it'll wreak havoc on roads, aqueducts, and pipelines. Yet California law gives landowners unlimited rights to groundwater. The state has yet to place any restrictions on farmers.
We need water desperately, and this is, hey, that's our lifeblood.
So Ernie Souza just drilled a new well, price tag $200,000, the only way, he figured, to save his walnut farm.
We have to go deeper with more horsepower, which costs us more money to pump this water, and it's just a never-ending battle. We're going backward.
He knows groundwater has limits, but rejects suggestions that climate change will make droughts the new normal.
We need to have more dams to capture more water so it can percolate down into the aquifer and we can sustain our...
There's a lot of scientists that are telling us it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer on this planet right now.
That's what I mean about being political. I think it's a bunch of bull crap. It's not something I think it's man-made. It's just things that happen. This is a God thing. I mean, it happens on a regular basis. We just happen to be in a 3-year cycle here that's really bad for us.
But time is running out on California's water supply, according to this geologist.
By the end of the century, we will see a major decline in the size of the snowpack. So that whole surface water reservoir that provides so much of the water that we use here in California will be disappearing.
For over a decade, he's worked with NASA to track changes in groundwater from space. This is 6 years of satellite data. Increasing red means decreasing water. Twice as much groundwater is being drawn as nature returns in rain and snow. Simply put, the valley is being sucked dry fast.
It's not a pretty picture. When we factor in climate change, population growth, groundwater depletion, we are looking at very difficult and challenging times ahead. I always say that I would never in a million years want to be a water manager in California.
Water managers say the farmers aren't on their side. The farmers decry surface water used to supply California's ever-growing, always thirsty city dwellers, or diversions to save fish so hard hit by drought that some 30 million salmon smolt made their migration in trucks this year. No question, water politics are bitter and complex.
Everybody is fighting each other and trying to get as much as they can.
The president's consolation, cash to help communities prepare for climate change, and aid for those hardest hit by fallow fields. For the ones who plant and harvest the farmland for minimum wage, sometimes less, if there's no water, there's no work. Thousands of farm workers have lost jobs. In towns throughout the valley, many now line up twice a month at temporary food banks. This is Lolly Aguero's first time here. She started working the fields at age 12. Her 4 children work the fields. But jobs are rarer and farther away.
Okay, where do I go?
You said you're having trouble finding work.
Finding work because of the water, yes. And the little bit of jobs are, you got to travel 40, 50 miles just to get a job on the west side of Fresno, so that's pretty hard for us.
Hello, Lollipop.
Hey, how you doing? Pretty good.
The mayor of Mendota now presides over a town with the state's worst unemployment rate, about 40%.
These people don't want to be here.
And he can barely contain his emotions.
People do not want to be here, but they have to for necessities.
This, says the head of the food bank, is a human tragedy.
The irony is that the very people who were a part of getting this food to the rest of the country, if not the world, are now without the work and relying on us at the food bank and at the state to provide the food back to them.
But if struggling farm workers aren't enough to bring attention to the drought, perhaps sticker shock in the food aisle will. This may look like bounty, but none of these oranges are headed for grocery stores. They're all below grade and will wind up in juice or other byproducts.
When you see less of these food products at the grocery store, the prices are going to go up, and that's what you're seeing already now.
No one predicts a food Armageddon, not yet. Farmers will keep juggling crops or drilling wells, but that can't last forever.
If this valley dries up and we're not able to produce the food that we produce, I feel the world will definitely feel the crunch. I don't think people realize what all the Central Valley holds.
Back at Matt Hammond's rig, it's day 3 of drilling. Fresh water is spurting. Time to head for the next job. Still, he recognizes the well drilling frenzy simply isn't sustainable. It's a disaster unfolding in slow motion.
You're going to maybe start to see an exodus from the valley.
You think people are just going to pack up and leave?
What else do you have to do? Without water, you don't have anything.
California has treated its water like a checking account, with no one keeping track of withdrawals, no one fretting about the balance. That era is ending, and that means change for farmers and everyone who consumes the fruits of their labors. Duncan McHugh, CBC News, Fresno, California.